Hello and welcome back to Up Next in Commerce. I'm your host, Stephanie Postles, CEO of Mission.org, and today I'm excited to have Matt Mullenax on the show, the CEO of Huron. Matt, welcome.
Thanks so much for having me, Stephanie. Look forward to it.
Yeah, same. I'm very excited because I'm looking through your background and it's bringing back fond memories of my own background within finance and being an analyst. And I was hoping we could kind of start there. Tell me about your career path before founding Huron.
Sure. So even before that, so originally from Ohio, so from the Midwest, went to school at Brown University and then graduated in 2008, which turns out wasn't the best time to kick off a career in finance.
Yep.
But ended up moving to New York, worked for a big investment bank there, and quickly learned that maybe that wasn't my cup of tea. So spent a little under 8 months, I guess, as an analyst, and then left to be an early employee at Bonobos.
Cool.
So spent about 2 years there as kind of employee 6.
Wow.
Everything from sales and inventory reports to other forms of analysis to literally packing pants in boxes for 6 hours a day and sprinting to FedEx before it closed.
Yep.
So it was a very hands-on approach in kind of what was the 0.0 days of D2C. So that was an incredible experience for me. Just spent a few years at Bonobos and then actually moved to Chicago where I got back into finance. So spent 2+ years at an investment bank in Chicago on the M&A team. And then spent 3 years at a consumer growth equity fund. So investing in consumer brands like Bonobos. So kind of the first institutional check-in, very operationally focused, which was really cool for me. It wasn't just kind of, locking yourself in a corner office and chimmeling on Excel all day. I was actually thinking about channel strategy and growth opportunities. So did that for a few years, then went out west to Stanford for business school and then started Huron after graduation in 2017.
Wow. So when you were working at the investment firm, I feel like you probably saw a lot of like trends and, oh, if I build a business, I should do this and not that. Like what kind of things were you learning and did you actually implement them when starting Huron?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think from a professional vantage point, there were a lot of points of inspiration behind Huron. I mean, I think for me, one of the themes at the private equity firm where I worked at was this notion in and around clean beauty. So we had looked at a ton of traditional beauty brands that were catering to the female consumer. And I was just blown away by the amazing and compelling founder stories, great packaging, amazing product, loyalist consumers. And the disconnect for me was I was a 25-year-old that was still buying neon green body wash from CVS, right? Yep. So that was a little bit of kind of professional inspiration to say, there's so much happening in this market and the white space for guys in particular is just massive. So that was definitely something that I kind of had earmarked in my head as like, this is a category that would be super interesting to come back to.
Cool. Okay. So then you went to Stanford. Were you building up the business plan there or did, your moment of like, oh, I want to found this company, did that not come until after graduating?
Yeah, it definitely came in the later stages. I mean, I think for me, prior to going to business school, all of my career was kind of focused in and around the consumer and retail sphere, which was the most exciting for me from a category standpoint. And I think that thesis held true going into business school, which was I knew I wanted to do something entrepreneurial at some point in the consumer spectrum, but I just wasn't sure when, where, and how. In between my first 2 years of school, I actually interned at Nike with a thought there of, I hadn't spent time in a kind of big co-consumer realm. I wasn't sure that I would love it necessarily, but my thesis was if I wouldn't enjoy it at my favorite brand, then I probably wouldn't enjoy it anywhere. And the thesis held true. I was not maybe the biggest fan of working in the corporate world, but it was great exposure and a really good learning point. And I think for me, kind of towards the tail end of my experience at Stanford, that's when I really started to dig in and kind of better understand what does this emerging kind of broader men's grooming, wellness, personal care landscape look like? Who are the players? What's the consumer psyche? What's the consumer tendencies, purchasing behavior, buying behavior, and really started to dig in there. So that's when I kind of got started.
Cool. Okay. So what was the original plan around Huron? Like what was the initial product idea? And then is it different today?
Yep. Good question. So the original kind of product thesis and honestly, like the other half of the spectrum, aside from kind of the professional interest and, that was kind of gained or accumulated while working in private equity, is there's a personal side of the coin, which is just the fact that I was the kid that grew up with bad skin, right? So I had tried more pads and creams and lotions and potions than probably anyone should probably attempt or try in a lifetime. And really nothing worked. And when I was out west for grad school, I had I would say stumbled into a prestige skincare store, but I had literally scouted out the store for 3 straight days because the entirety of the exterior was glass and I was terrified that someone would see me in the store. So I
Mm-hmm.
literally went like as soon as they opened, then I was sure like no one would be passing by. I ran in, I bought a tiny bottle of face wash that was glass for $108 and I sprinted out. And
Whoa.
for me, what, yeah, I know. I was like, and that
It's
like my
intense.
fingers forever like laser etched in my brain.
Yeah. Buyer's remorse ever since that
Yeah,
day.
exactly. But the product worked. So for
Okay.
me, that was like the early kind of light bulb moment, which was, could you replicate the efficacy, the clean technology, the minimal packaging, whatever it was, and
Mm-hmm.
bring it down to an audience that either A, wasn't really sure what to do in the bathroom, or B, was starting to care, but didn't really know where to start.
Mm-hmm.
So that was kind of the early thesis, kind of creating A++ type caliber products and delivering those to guys who might be autopilot shoppers at CVS or Walgreens, but couldn't actually tell you why or how they appreciated the products they were buying.
Yep.
So from there, ended up doing a bunch of like survey work, and we actually launched a fake brand in January of 2018 to kind of further collect these data points to test out, was all natural better positioning versus vegan versus clean. And we tested a bunch of markets that otherwise would be viewed as kind of flyover states or cities. So Columbus and Cincinnati, where I'm from, Chicago, Milwaukee, Pittsburgh, Kansas City, Charlotte. And the data points we collected were just incredibly informative to really give us a sense that this was something worth pursuing.
So how are you going about testing in those markets? Like what kind of things were you doing to see if it would be received well?
Yeah, it was largely around copy. So we just Google imaged a bunch of like what we thought were more like masculine leaning images. I mean, it was like a hilarious exercise more than anything. But for us, it was the copy and the messaging.
Mm-hmm.
Was there a better click-through rate in and around clean versus natural or natural versus organic? Because my thought was that would substantially impact what the cost components would look like on the formulation development process side, but also the retail pricing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And our goal again was to provide this really high quality product, but at a price point that wasn't offensive to folks who were still kind of buying those mass incumbent product lines.
Yeah. So, I mean, as a woman, the product's amazing. It's in my shower. And also the guy I've been dating, he's also been using it every day, loves it. I don't think he'll ever stop using it at this point. But when I think about selling to men, like what's important to them, like, I mean, what kind of things did you see resonating with them? Because, I mean, you can tell it's high quality. The packaging is amazing. I love that there's nothing bad in it. But how do you kind of sell that to men and show them that, this is the product that you're actually using versus your Old Spice or whatever people use these days?
Yeah, sure. I think it's been a really interesting learning on that front. I would say for the first 6 to 9 months post-launch, we were really talking about the products, right? It was 100% vegan body wash or certified cruelty-free or free of this laundry list of chemicals. And we just really weren't hitting the mark. I didn't feel like, I mean, obviously we were growing and scaling, which was exciting, but I didn't think we had quite channeled that explosive growth yet. And then we just started touching around sensory and sensorial elements that we thought would resonate with our base. So we came up with literally a very hard hitting, we just said across a series of assets, we just wrote the internet's best smell. And all of a sudden, like click-through rates and, skyrocketed, CPAs plummeted. And we're like, at the end of the day, like a lot of these consumers want something that obviously works, but they want to smell good. And it's very hard to smell on a screen. So we had to be kind of championing all of the hard work that we had done on the fragrance development side, for instance. So that was a really interesting learning. And then we just said like, okay, it turns out like we might need to be a little bit more clickbaity, but we didn't feel like the change in voice was that strong of a deviation from like who we were as a brand and our brand voice anyways, right? We're very relatable, very down to earth. So thinking about like what other ways we could channel that intrigue without sounding like a used car salesman necessarily, but resonating with someone in a very short finite period of time, because we know attention spans digitally aren't that great. So how can you kind of lure these eyeballs in pretty quickly?
Yeah, I think that's so interesting thinking about how to market to men and what's important to them, because some of the things that resonate with them, I'm like, that is not something I think is, I'd be looking for. Like, I love the ingredient list and
Sure.
There was another wash that talked about like the most, like it lathered up more than anything else. And I was like, is that something I care about? I don't know. I guess men want to be really well lathered, but I don't really care about that.
Car wash-esque lather was another
Yeah.
one that was like resonating crazy well. So look, it's kind of funny. It's tongue in cheek. It's inviting.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things that we've learned is there's so many personas out there that we can cater to because the degree and the product quality and the formulation, we kind of let those things now kind of speak for themselves so that it's almost a way to attract someone to the brand first. And then once they receive the product, they're like, holy cow, this stuff's actually really, really good. And I actually really like it. Versus just championing like how great the products are, because customers can kind of see through that pretty easily.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. So in the early days of starting the company, what kind of things did you do to try and get the word out to new customers, and what worked and what didn't work?
Yeah, good question. I think the first thing that we did was we tried to manufacture a bit of an email capture list. And tactically what that looked like is I literally downloaded every single one of my Gmail contacts, like literally anyone that I had ever emailed since 2008. I got a lot of interesting responses being like, who the expletive are you? And like, don't email me ever again.
Hey, you got to start somewhere, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, cool. Like, yeah, no, definitely won't. But we asked like, hey, we're building this thing. We'd appreciate if you would forward to a friend or a buddy or whomever. And I would say that was a good way to start, but we weren't seeing like the hundreds of thousands of email captures like maybe some of our predecessor brands did early on. So when we launched, we definitely had an audience of sorts, but it was, we weren't launching to 250,000 people necessarily. And I think if we were to go back and do this journey again, while, product is probably still number one, like I think we would bump up that exercise in and around community building and audience building and content creation and reallocating more of the time into those buckets so that when you launch, you are launching to a pretty broad and widespread audience. So it's kind of email capture early on. We ran some early paid stuff to try and again, kind of grab emails, but I think a more dedicated and thoughtful push and figuring out how we can leverage maybe certain folks with audiences that we had access to. I think we kind of underplayed that a little bit, just figuring out cheat codes that we felt, that we had in our back pocket that we kind of leverage a bit. But again, like I would say that we probably could have allocated more time and energy to that.
Yeah. So when it comes to building up community, like what are you finding success with right now, or, new avenues to connect with people and actually keep them, in your circle? What's working?
Yeah. One of the narratives that we have is around this growing importance of the humanization of brand is what we like to call it. So, Bonobo 0.0, people were really drawn to the novelty of buying things online, right? It was in 2008, it was like very new to go buy 4 pairs of chinos via the internet. I think as the D2C world has evolved, the consumer has certainly gotten smarter. So a lot of things that were points of difference are now kind of table stakes. Product quality being one of them. I still believe like there's still a point of differentiation to be had there, but your stuff has to be good or else people won't come back. But to kind of circle back on the point that I just made around the humanization of brand, we're trying to do a lot of things that do require more manual lift up front, but we're kind of playing the long-term game. The now like ubiquitous saying of like, do things that won't scale. Well, like, what does that actually mean? Right? It's like really fun and catchy to say that, but like behind the scenes, what does that mean? Like for us, for instance, we have a trigger where if someone spends on their first purchase, like I think it's 3x, like our standard AOV, like we'll reach out on a personal level. So it's like, hey, customer X, like saw you're in Columbus, like no way, like we ship from here, and like I'm actually from here, like the weather in New York's crazy, like hope it's not as bad as it is here, like. But that just shows that like it's a very human to human interaction. We don't sign off as thanks or best or cheers or regards. It's like, have a great Tuesday. It's just a way to kind of feel a little bit more engaged on a one-to-one basis. And what that's allowed us to do is to create a pretty engaged community of a few thousand guys on email, customers on email, that we tap into for early access, for product development pipeline, for potential package redesign, anything that we could think of as being like a pretty thoughtful and important decision. We go leverage the perspectives of a few thousand folks who have chose to partner with Huron with their wallet. So tapping into those insights has been hugely impactful as we kind of think about this broader community build.
I love that. Yeah, when I've heard people talking about doing things that don't scale, I haven't actually heard of them setting up methodologies around it so far. It's kind of like, oh, randomly pick, a couple people here and then like creep on them, maybe see what, maybe I could send to them to make it very personal. But I like the approach of, if they spend 3x the normal AOV, then let's go after them. Are there any other triggers like that you guys look for to know like this is someone we want to lean into more?
Yeah, I mean, there are a few other triggers that we have that I won't reveal all the secrets. But
just like 9 out of 10 of them. Come on.
Another tactic, for instance, is like we sent out an email to folks in and around Boston on Marathon Monday, right? It's like, well, like whether you're running, watching, or already at the bar celebrating, like here's like a special offer. And I like the response rate from that was awesome because like, wow, like these folks know that I actually live in Boston and like I may actually be running. Like that's kind of cool.
Yep. So, you should probably smell afterwards. You need something.
Exactly.
There you go.
Turns out you actually need this product.
Yeah.
I just think that historically the world of CX has been mislabeled as something that's very reactive, but I think CX can be very proactive as well, which is, hey, if there's an issue with FedEx, proactively reaching out to that customer to let him or her know. If they've spent a shockingly high amount as their first order, reach out to them and tell them that you care and you saw that you're super excited to have them on board. So little things like that I think are a bit atypical, I would say, in the CX side, we really try to lean into. And that's how we kind of view this whole world as quote unquote, do things that don't scale.
Yeah, I love that. It brings up a couch. Once again, I feel like I've been ordering couches for like 2 years now and they just are forever delayed. And I was ordering a new one and it's been about 6 months and I'm like, it's already delayed. If I have to get to the point where I'm asking where it is, there's already a problem. Like you should have already updated me right away instead of kind of forcing like, oh, okay, here's 2 solutions. And I'm like, I don't like either of those. Now I'm even more mad. Yeah. So yeah, it's a good point to kind of like, communicate a lot early, often be very transparent because I would have been way happier if I just knew the date before I actually had to think about it on my own and felt like, am I getting tricked here? What's happening?
100%. And kind of along those lines, when we thought about kind of building and crafting the team, actually our first hire was someone that was in charge of retention marketing and CX. So it's a really unique position, actually, not too dissimilar from kind of the seat that Eli sits in from Olipop, but, and we're close brand friends with Eli and what he's doing is amazing. But thinking about what happens after the finish line and actually prioritizing that in terms of brand infrastructure build versus just immediately spending money to turn on the growth spigot. And then all of a sudden you have a bunch of issues on the back end that you weren't prepared to tackle. It's how can you actually roll out the red carpet to people who have chosen to, I said earlier, join the brand by voting with their wallet and make sure that they're having a 12 out of 10 experience. So thinking about kind of that construction post finish line and actually prioritizing that first and then working backwards once you feel like that foundation is set.
Yeah. So I can tell your friends Eli, because he said something very similar. He felt like that was one of the biggest missed moments after a purchase was not sending them anywhere, not giving them any information, not having other ways to interact. What do you all do after purchase to kind of keep someone engaged and give them, even more value even after they already bought something?
Yep. We have a series of kind of onboarding flows. Some of our products require a little bit more education. So we kind of think about ways we can set up those new customers for success or those new products for success. And I think that's been very, very helpful and well received. It's very easy to sit back and pull a report from Klaviyo and say, oh, this email's garbage because it didn't meet our conversion rate metrics. But thinking like further up the funnel, like, well, what was the open rate? What was kind of the click rate? Like, are people actually engaging with this email? If people are opening it, like they may actually be really appreciating it, but maybe they're just not buying. And I think like those moments where not every form of messaging has to be geared towards ringing the cash register is something that we're focused on. And that's kind of like the longer term customer build that we're gearing towards.
Okay. Well, which products of yours require education? Because I'm thinking they're all the ones in my shower. I'm like, okay, shampoo, got it. Face wash, got it. Body wash, got it.
Yeah.
Who needs help here?
One in particular would be our eye stick.
Oh, okay. I don't know if we had got that one.
More of a novel product. So understanding what's the best way to use this product and when should you start to see results and just kind of, again, like setting these products up for success a little bit.
Got it. Okay.
Like the body wash, for instance, like it's pretty concentrated, as you know, so like, you don't need a ton of it. Yep. And even the messaging on the bottle around kind of quarter size and lather, like the rationale behind that was to say like, stop wasting money on like literally pouring out the entire bottle every
Hmm.
fourth shower.
Yep.
You just don't need a lot of it, and this should last you 60 days.
Hmm.
And I think that kind of gets the wheel spinning around. We're kind of going through this journey together,
Hmm.
Huron and you. Our goal is to help you help yourself.
Yep.
So like, what can we do to kind of further build that partnership as you continue on your personal care journey?
Yeah, I love that because I feel like there's been a lot of trust that was kind of lost in this industry, whether it's around razors and hearing the stories of like, oh, they're showing you putting it in the shower because they know that like degrades the razor and then you have to get a new one, or like, conditioners or even shampooing. Like you probably don't need to do it every single day. Maybe it's better not to. And at least for women, we all know the secrets and we're like, you can't trick us. So I love that, you're kind of going about it like, let me start from a trust, perspective of like, I'm going to give you all the information. You can do what you want, but like, you don't need to waste things in the process. That's
Exactly.
great.
Exactly.
So I want to jump back into, you were mentioning kind of local advertising efforts before, which I feel like is a really big missed opportunity for a lot of new D2C companies popping up who kind of focus on a lot of the normal ways of advertising. How are you guys thinking about this local targeting and, going after people who just ran marathons and whatnot?
Yeah, admittedly, it's somewhat of a new initiative for us,
Hmm.
but we've seen pretty strong, ROI metrics off
Yep.
of those, which is really, really enticing and exciting. I think we're still kind of fighting the same fight that a lot of D2C brands are, advertising through traditional mediums, so Facebook, Google,
Yep.
other paid social platforms. We do have an Amazon presence, which
Okay.
I think one thing that's emerged over the past 18 months is Amazon has become the world's most reliable retailer when it comes to shipping,
Hmm.
right? So, that partnership and that channel has been really, really great for us. But yeah, I think we'll continue to tap into some of these more personalized initiatives, whether it's geographically, whether that's psychographics, et cetera. Maybe it's, hey, you've purchased the body wash 4 times, but let's send you some sample shampoo on the house because we think you'll love it.
Hmm.
We've kind of dipped our toes into some of those initiatives, but kind of excited about how we can continue to roll out the red carpet to not only new customers but existing customers as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I think there's so many opportunities. I mean, I just think about the sponsors and partners we work with. I mean, obviously very big companies, but they have these abilities to have very like micro targeting when it comes to local things. And you just see these crazy results. And I've started to think of like, okay, how can these brands get access to this too and be able to, adjust messaging like that based off of a local parade that's going on, because the conversion rates are probably way better than, just a normal ad that you're competing against everyone on.
100%, 100%. And I think, for us, whether it's some of the more hyper local targeting efforts on email or even in-person events,
Hmm.
we've started to get back into that scene a little bit, whether it's kind of in the fitness scene
Hmm.
or elsewhere, but just leveraging products and samples to really introduce people to the brand and actually get to know customers on a one-to-one basis, kind of IRL, which
Yep.
obviously kind of the world pushed paused on for 16-ish months. It's been fun to kind of meet folks in person to talk about the brand, to talk about the product, and then have them try some on the spot.
Yeah. Well, how are y'all thinking about partnerships? Because I'm imagining like all these angles of like, okay, you partner with these gyms, and you're automatically in front of men who probably wouldn't even be thinking about bringing something good to the gym. Like, how are you guys exploring that right now?
Yeah, I think that's one avenue for us that we're really excited about kind of turning the dial up on, not just gyms in general, but partnerships.
Hmm.
I mean, we're a team of 4 today, so we're pretty
Wow.
lean.
You guys seem like you have a bigger team just based on your presence.
Yeah, I appreciate it. It's a team of 4. We haven't hired anyone in a year.
Hmm.
So I think that's a focus of ours into 2022, which is how can we make sure the right folks are in the right chairs to help kind of grow and steer the ship a bit. And I think bringing
Hmm.
someone on the marketing front will really help us not only unlock some of those opportunities by just adding to the roster, but also
Hmm.
around strategizing around, okay, let's be very thoughtful and intentional about how we're testing this particular initiative, and then report back 30 days and say, what were the KPIs, what were the measurements, then make a kill or invest in decision around this is worthy of our time, effort, and energy and dollars.
Hmm.
So I think, steadily growing out the team, I think will allow us to tackle a lot more of those opportunities where right now we're a little resource constrained.
Yeah, I would say I still am kind of mind blown that you only have 4 people for what you guys are doing. I mean, when it comes to even developing new products and all that, I mean, how do you even do that with just 4 people? Like, what does that process look like?
Yeah, good question. So my co-founder, Matt, has basically spent the entirety of his career building amazing products. So he used to be the VP of corporate innovation and global product development at Estee Lauder. So he built the entire men's Tom Ford line. He was developing for Lab Series, and he has, he has an unbelievable sense for what is a great product, what is a great fragrance. And we've been able to work with kind of the best in class contract manufacturers because of his background, quite honestly. And that's been a huge unlock for us to, to have the right discussions, to be speaking directly with the chemists, et cetera, because like that is his level of understanding of the space. And I think that allows us to really create a really strong pipeline of great product. But yeah, I mean, in addition to that, I mean, we're constantly talking about packaging. We kind of split the packaging piece. Our first employee, Johnny, runs everything kind of retention, CX, web, partnerships. And then Annie, who we hired kind of in the thick of the pandemic in 2020. I mean, she does everything: social, ambassador, partnership, content creation. I mean, we're tackling a lot with a few. So it'll be good to add some folks to the team.
Yeah, that's awesome. I've also kind of heard the same theme these past couple interviews I've been doing over the past week or two around, having someone who has either yourself or hiring someone who has industry experience that can kind of fill a big void and accelerate you past the point that you could have done on your own. And even if that means, being an entrepreneur within an organization, because you're like, I know I want to get into this industry, but, I don't have these skill sets yet. Like, why not work at a larger company or partner with someone who's already done that? Because it just seems a way faster strategy to be able to grow a company than, starting at square one these days.
100%. And said just like slightly differently, like you have to look internally and figure out like what your cheat codes are, right? Like some brands, it's influencer backed, or that person is a part of the co-founding team and they have 1 million followers on Instagram. Like that's a pretty good leg up, right? Because you don't have to do a lot of the audience creation. I think for us, obviously, like partnering with Matt early on, I mean, he is just a wealth of knowledge when it comes to anything personal care, grooming, skincare related, especially in the men's category. So it's just been huge for us to figure out, it is an art and a science in terms of like, we'll poll our community and understand the products that they would like to see from us. And then he can internalize, like, I think we should prioritize this versus that. This will take longer. But I also think like this subset of products that weren't even offered up would be phenomenal for our base. So, it's a little push-pull on that front, but yeah, I think once we get products into people's hands, more often than not, they're pretty blown away around the product quality and kind of the caliber of products that we're putting out into the market.
Yeah. Are there any crazy requests from your customers? Tell me some. What are the best ones?
Well, that's a tough one because that really does kind of double click into some secrets. But I mean, we get requests for everything. There are products that are kind of more what's the word I'm looking for? Kind of like not entry level, but kind of entry level. It's like, hey, we really like your fragrance scent. Like, it would be great if you made this product.
Okay.
But at the same time, there are one-offs that are very compelling and very interesting, but those oftentimes revolve around problem solution. So it's like, hey, like I've struggled with this, or I've battled with that. Like, could there be a product that tackles this? And I think when we kind of riff through like product pipeline planning, kind of thinking about like how big is the market for some of these different product lines, it's a fun exercise. Yeah. It's definitely a challenge because product development isn't something that takes 2 weeks, right? This could be a 9 to 24 month exercise. So you really have to have a pretty strong degree of conviction that whatever you're creating, like there is certainly a market for. But it's fun to tap into the audience and kind of understand not only what products would you want to see or expect to see from us, but like what would be like a nice to have.
Yeah. How many of your products right now are maybe influenced from your current customers, and how many are just like a Matt and Matt decision? Matt squared.
Question. I think what we have in the market today, and we're launching a few new products, a new scent, which is for the most part today we've been kind of mono scent profile, which means kind of the similar scent kind of flows through the entire assortment. But we're coming out with a more woody kind of cedarwood, sandalwood, amber. I mean, it smells amazing.
Yeah. I like that smell. Where's your women's line? I'll just keep using the men's stuff.
Honestly, the feedback that we've gotten to date was it actually smells a little bit more gender neutral.
Yeah.
Which has been amazing because for this launch in particular, I've actually worked with a few female influencers, and the feedback there has been amazing. So I'm pretty excited about this. So kind of aside from like, supplementing the existing assortment with some kind of like products that would make sense, no pun intended.
I like that.
I mean, it's just like a dad joke thing. I feel like I could go on forever.
Oh, I love dad jokes, so keep them coming.
Yeah, there are consistent themes that we would love to tap into,
Hmm.
especially on the problem solution side. That, like the eye stick was something that was like, you guys need to do something to help combat
Hmm.
anti-aging,
Yeah.
because whether it's eye bags, whether it's thinning hair, for a lot of
Hmm.
guys, it's like you don't start to address it until it's too late. But
Yep.
once, like, I feel like kind of that taboo is, the bar is slowly coming down, which is,
Hmm.
I can proactively take care of this now. Like,
Hmm.
I think over the past 24 to 36 months, it's become more trendy to use Hims Keeps Roman
Yep.
as like preventative maintenance for losing your hair, because that's like something that
Yep.
most guys are like wildly fearful of, right?
Yeah.
But I think what they're doing is awesome, and it's
Hmm.
definitely more of a problem solution type full on attack,
Yeah.
where our thesis is a little bit different, but
Hmm.
three great amazing companies that have certainly scaled rather quickly, which is pretty
Hmm.
impressive given they're kind of like the only three companies in the category.
Yep.
So just a signal that the want and the desire for those products is extremely high.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think what's nice though with your product is that like with others, it seems like it's more kind of like buying behind the scenes, not really wanting. It's still not really wanting to talk about it, even though I know a lot of their brands are like, "Hey, we could be open about this." But I feel like with your brand, I mean, it's so easy to connect with and share. And even if you add additional products that maybe haven't always been talked about, I feel like because of where you're starting, it's going to be a very easy place to be able to be kind of like on the front lines of that, where people actually want to share it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, totally. And certainly appreciate you saying that. I think the thought process in and around the launch assortment was, how can you build the best quality basics,
Hmm.
right? Which is, this consumer knows what a body wash is. This
Yeah.
consumer knows what a face wash is. So how can you make those products a 12 out of 10? And then from there, kind of establish that brand presence, but brand trust,
Yeah.
and then slowly start to dip into maybe some of these more esoteric categories. But because you've laid that foundation, the
Hmm.
consumer is kind of saying like, okay, like maybe I wouldn't otherwise be willing to try product X, but I love these other three
Yep.
products so much, like I am willing to try that.
Hmm.
And I think that's kind of like the rationale in terms of how we think about assortment expansion and whatnot.
Yep. Yeah. I love that. Get into the harder things down the road after people already love you to death. So it's good. How do you think about Amazon right now? I mean, I know you said that, you realized that was basically the best shipping and kind of like retail partner over the past year or so. Like, how do you view having people buy on there versus going straight to your website and, getting that first party data?
Sure. I mean, I think in a perfect world, we'd love to have 100% of our traffic flowing
Yeah.
through our site,
Yes.
as would any brand. But we're also hip to the tune that, the consumer journey differs for literally every single customer, right? And
Hmm.
you may get served an Instagram ad, then quickly Google the company, then go to our website, then go back to Google, then see we sell on Amazon, and then the
Hmm.
next time you buy something on Amazon, you add a body wash to cart, right? So it's just, there's so many different iterations of how customers shop from us, and for our category, which you know is a commodity by and large, like it just makes sense for us to be on that platform. If you're
Hmm.
buying hand soap and dish detergent and whatnot, like to be like, oh, I'm actually out of shampoo, like let me quickly add that to cart, like that is a
Hmm.
missed opportunity if we're not there. So I think for us, it's a bet that we've been excited about really since March of 2020 when we launched on Amazon. And we've just seen tremendous growth on that channel. And I think for us, what's been really encouraging, as the Facebook ecosystem continues to face some headwinds, and a lot of brands have
Hmm.
experienced some hiccups, Amazon for us has been a channel that we've been continuing to scale and grow at an incredibly efficient rate. So we've been
Hmm.
able to kind of reallocate spend into that channel, but still see tremendous results.
That's cool. How do you get ahead of the competition on here? I'm like looking at men's body wash, and it's like the CVS style things that are like first that are popping up where I'm like, no, no, no.
Yeah.
How do you get ahead of some of these and actually start showing up,
Yep.
here?
So it's certainly an expensive category, right? It's not cheap
Yeah.
to get on men's body wash or body wash in general. I think what we've seen though is, we've scaled the platform tremendously over the course of 2020 with almost no attention.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things that's kind of propelled our positioning within and our organic search rank within Amazon is just really positive reviews.
Mm-hmm.
I think that channel in particular is one that uh, evaluates things in a very 0 to 1 type mentality. It's like it's either a
Yep.
good product or it's not. It's
Mm-hmm.
very cut and dry. Like the brand doesn't really play as much of a factor as just pure play product assessment. And I
Yep.
think when it comes to that level of evaluation, I feel really good about our product line. So,
Mm-hmm.
we've been able to grow with positive reviews and obviously leveraging, social proof in the form of reviews and PR hits to then obviously push people to Amazon as well, if that's their preferred channel.
Yep. Yeah, that's great. So where are you hoping to be maybe in the next 2 to 3 years? Like what will Huron look like? How many products are you going to have? What will you be feeling like?
Geez, I don't even know what's going to happen 2 or 3 days from now. But, in all seriousness, I've been really, really excited about the growth that we've had over the course of the year. Again, kind of with the same crew around the table. I think bringing some smart folks on board in certain areas and chairs that we need to fill will just
Mm-hmm.
continue to unlock a tremendous amount of value for us. We will continue to release product, but we're pretty maniacal around not having an assortment that blows out of proportion that becomes unmanageable. So for us, we're constantly looking at what's selling, but also what's not selling and what can we do to kind of cattle prod these products to get going a little bit? Or is this just fundamentally a product that doesn't resonate with our base?
Mm-hmm.
So we're internalizing all that data all the time. So we're definitely kind of aware and conscious of SKU proliferation, but there is a lot of new products that we're really, really excited about. So continue to build the brand and build the team out, and then launching new products that we feel like our base would really, really respond well to.
Yeah, I love that. Excited to watch where you all go and where you end up. All right, let's move over to the lightning round. The lightning round is brought to you by Salesforce Commerce Cloud. This is where I'm going to ask you a question, and you have 1 minute or less to answer. Are you ready, Matt?
I hope so.
Okay. What's one thing you don't understand today, but you wish you did?
Interesting. I would honestly say the rationale behind successful content. And
Yeah.
the thought there is we put a ton of stuff into the ether, and you can have a very low degree of confidence in something will work and it'll absolutely crush it. And the same is true vice versa.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy. And I wish, probably like every other founder, wish you had a better finger on the pulse as to the why.
Yeah. Yeah. It definitely feels, yeah, I don't know. I don't understand that one either. Because sometimes I see things, I'm like, this is so clickbaity. Why do people love this? And then other things that are really good, I'm like, why is this not shared? So that's a good answer. What's the best piece of business advice you've heard throughout your life?
Probably have two. So one is take care of the little things, and the big things will take care of themselves.
Mm-hmm.
I think making sure that we can stay really focused in and around what our mission is and to whom we're fighting for and why we're creating these products, and being thoughtful around the KPIs we're hitting or not hitting, how can we get there, and just acting quickly, I think for me is super, super important. And then I have a business mentor, professional mentor, who was a former kind of higher up in the SEALs, and his famous mantra is never pick a fair fight. He was like, why is the SEAL successful is because they went out on missions at 3:30 in the morning when everyone was sleeping, right? So how I internalized that into the much less important business world is just really thinking about like, what are opportunities that are pretty special for Huron, and how can we leverage those in and across a category that is certainly growing in terms of attention, but also in terms of competition and folks entering the space. So just being really thoughtful and intentional about how we're kind of crafting our strategy going forward.
That's good. Yeah, it can be so easy to kind of get distracted and see lots of opportunities everywhere and jump at them and not stay focused of like, where are my, advantages that right now that many don't have. So
yes, correct.
That's a good one. What's up next on your reading list?
So I just started Empire of Pain, which is about the South family. I'm from Southwest Ohio. Like, this crisis has plagued that region of the country for decades. And it's just, I'm literally on page 20, and I've been like upset, very angry, like multiple times. So it'll be interesting to see how this book goes. It might get thrown a few times, but we'll see. But
oh man, okay. I need to look this up. I have never heard of this book. Wow, lots of good ratings on Goodreads though. Okay, Cool. What is the nicest thing anyone's ever done for you?
I guess when I was thinking about going to college, I mean, I was able to have the opportunity to attend an Ivy League school to play football, and that was a lot of pressure and support coming from pressure uh, and kind of tough times from my parents, just being able to afford how we're going to afford this. And I think that opportunity was never really lost on me. I think it was the first time I've ever seen my dad cry. But just knowing like what they went through, he never had the opportunity to go to college. And just being reminded of like how lucky and fortunate I am. I think at the end of the day, like that just opened up so many doors for me and something I'm forever grateful for.
Oh, that's great. I love that. Well, Matt, thank you so much for coming on the show today. Yeah, very glad that Eli brought you our way. So thank you. Where can people find out more about you and Huron?
Yeah, so all the Huron handles are just at use Huron across Instagram, Twitter, all the fun stuff. And then at Matt Mullenax, or if you have any questions, just shoot me a note, matt@usehuron.com. You know, so many people have been so generous with their time and me berating them with questions that I'm a big believer in kind of paying it forward. So don't hesitate to reach out with anything.
Love that. Thanks, Matt.
Thank you.